everyone. Andrew here from the We Did It blog. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I'm joined today by Peter Heller. Peter is the founder of Peter J. Heller Consulting. How you doing today, Peter?
I'm very well, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Peter is a great person to talk to about major gifts. So we brought some questions today about how to make a major gift ask and his game plan for when he has prospective donors on the phone. So I'm going to ask him about that right off the bat. Peter, talk to me a little bit about when you're calling a donor and asking them just to come in for a visit. What's your game plan once you've got a donor on the phone?
Thanks, Andrew. That's a great question. So the interesting thing about that is that whenever I work with my clients, we're very careful to make sure that we have a plan for them before they pick up the phone. You have to be very good at this game in order to pick up the phone and not have a plan before you do it. So therefore, you want to engage the person that you're talking to. You want to be very cognizant of asking if they have a few moments to talk. By asking them something like, "Hi, how are you?" after you've introduced yourself, you're going to get a really great response and reading on whether they have time to talk. "Oh, I'm great today," or "Oh, I'm actually really busy. Now's not a good time, but call me back." So I try to get through the purpose of my call as soon as I can and not take a lot of their time. And almost all of the time, when I'm having somebody call a potential donor, the purpose is to secure a face-to-face meeting. So I have them get to that point after they've made a bit of a chit-chat connection and made sure that the person understands who they are. And I try to have them try to secure a meeting and make sure, very importantly, that they do not have the meeting on the phone.
Got it. Yeah. So once you get them in and you're with them face to face in your facility or wherever you're working, how do you know when the right time to make an ask is? What kind of signs are you looking for during that visit?
Right. Also a good question. Fundraising with individual donors who have capacity to make a really big difference in your organization is both an art and a science. So it requires the person who's doing the fundraising on behalf of the nonprofit to have a really good feel for what the right time to do which action or activity is. And at the same time, it requires them, the science part is to keep in their mind that there's a general flow of relationship building that happens over time. So the science is the relationship is going to get built. The art is figuring out when the right time is to ask what. And to answer your question very directly, every time you have a meeting with somebody, you should make an ask. However, that doesn't mean that every time you meet with somebody, you should be asking for money. You really have to gauge whether the relationship has become strong enough and powerful enough for that person to, first of all, say yes, and second of all, to say yes with the absolute best, highest dollar goal.
Got it.
If you're not asking for money, it begs the question, what am I going to ask for? Well, you're not going to ask for spare change, or you're not going to ask for tea. You're going to ask for another meeting. You're going to ask if the person was, hopefully not, but if the person was somewhat not that committal or negative, you might ask for an opportunity just to keep the door open and keep the conversation going. So you always want to be asking for something that creates forward momentum in building a strong relationship on behalf of your nonprofit.
That's a really good way to look at it, that you're leaving the ball in their court every time the meeting ends, right? Making sure they know what the next course of action for them could be.
Yeah, which actually brings up a really important point, is that whenever I work with nonprofits, and most of my work is consulting with nonprofits on their fundraising strategies and capital campaigns. And whenever I do that, I'm very insistent that there be a next step, regardless of whether you have an internal staff meeting. That's fine, have a next step. But if you're going to meet with a potential donor, you need to figure out what your next step is going to be before you go into the meeting. And then you have to, where the art comes in is that next step may have to change based on what you learned in the meeting. But you need to figure out at the end of the meeting what the realistic next step is. And you need to say it out loud to the person you're meeting with so you both agree. I'll be back in touch in 2 weeks to share more information on that program you are interested in, or something that keeps things going.
Excellent. Yeah, I really like that. It's a great way to think about it. So let's say you're talking to a new major gift fundraiser and she's getting ready for her first meeting with a prospect. What are 3 things you're going to tell her to kind of coach her up?
Okay, so let's see. I guess number 1 is to make sure you listen really well. The art of fundraising with individual donors is really about listening as much as possible. So number 2, like I said before, make an ask. Hopefully, if you're new and you're meeting somebody for the first time, you're not going to ask them for money, even if you could. Number 3 is what I had also already said before, is a next step. So listen really well, make an ask, and have a next step.
Got it.
I'll say one more thing. I mean, there's a lot of other things I could say. We actually work through scripts and role play with people before we send them out a lot of the time, so that they get comfortable with the whole process. And there's another thing that's really important, that say you meet somebody for the first time and they're like, oh, you know what? I want to give you $5,000 for your cause. Now, you need to decide right in that moment whether you're going to say yes or no. It's kind of, on the one hand, it's not really that polite to turn down a gift, but on the other hand, you have to have really good boundaries and know whether that may just be like, hey, if I give you this, you're going to go away. I don't have to deal with this anymore. But if you can build that relationship and say something like, hey, you know what? We really want support for our organization, but I'd like to make sure that we get to know each other and you get to know our organization better before you make such a generous gift. Let's continue talking if that's okay with you. Somebody who offers you $5,000 when you first meet them, if you meet them a few more times, you're going to get significantly more money.
Yeah, so you're trying to build up the long-term value of the relationship rather than just that short-term kind of payoff. Great.
So, and then if you do that successfully, it becomes less about the money and more about what the needs that you're each fulfilling for each other. Kind of like dating or marriage.
As I say, I imagine then the donor then also feels more engaged too, and not just like treated like an ATM, right? But they actually feel like they're an important part of the mission then too, even if it's costing them more money.
Yeah, which is well, hopefully they'll do it willingly because they're so excited about what you're doing to make the world a better place.
Awesome, really cool. All right, so one last question for you. What do you feel is the biggest mistake major gift fundraisers make in their day-to-day practice?
Not setting stretch goals for themselves in terms of making sure they get out of the office on a regular basis. Many people are torn in a lot of directions, pulled in a lot of directions. So setting monthly goals for, I'm going to go out and make this many, have this many meetings each month.
Excellent. Very cool. So Peter, where can people find out more about your work?
So peterjheller.com is my website. And I will, the next kind of opportunity to connect with me is on June 17th. I'll be giving a webinar on the For Good website. Maybe if you can include information on that, that would be good. The webinar is called How to Ask for Big Gifts from Individuals in 3 Easy Steps.
Excellent. How to ask for 3 big gifts in 3 easy steps. Was that it?
No, how to ask for big gifts in 3 easy steps. Each big gift requires 3 easy steps.
Got it. Awesome. All right, we'll throw that link up in the blog post with this and the description for the video too. But thanks a lot for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to that webinar. I'll be there actually myself. So, all right, well, take care, everybody. See you at the next one.
Okay, thanks a lot, Andrew.